Welcome back to the Mystery Duo podcast. As today we are here with my good old friend Dr. Jordan.
Hello.
Uh, we are here today to talk about the thing that that may or may not exist, schools.
Schools. Working theory that from ages 1 to 18, uh, your parents are just sending you through this machine that simulates school.
Prison.
Yeah, prison school. Um, so we're gonna work our way through our school lives and how they have either yeah, like shapened us or push us aside and put us in as
What
another brick
we
in the wall.
actually learned
What we
from them
actually learned, yes. So, Tyler, why don't you
that
start
may or
us
may not
off?
exist. Um. Okay. So as it is with many people, I don't actually remember where I was. Well, actually, all right. So my life, I move a lot when I was younger. So to me, I can't really place a location to went to kindergarten. I remember going to kindergarten. I remember like the building. I remember feeling really really small and being able to and when we are like teaching us like how to write our names and stuff. I remember thinking, "Oh, I can't write my last name." Like it was going to be impossible. Like that was never going to happen. But
Hmm.
I've been to like over 13 different schools in my life, and I haven't really liked any of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's downsides and plus sides to each of them, like some of them having more money than others, for
Hmm.
example. Uh, and that's definitely affected how it was. I used to go like it would be like every year I went to a new school, and then
Hmm.
until I stayed where we were. I don't know. I have a very not good reaction to
Schools.
public schools because
Hmm.
that I went to public schools, and I think
Yeah,
you would.
I did
Yeah.
too. I did too. Um, Growing up for me, I stuck around at the same area of schools before until high school. That's when I switched, and I met you. When I switched to a different district, I went to community schools. From kindergarten all the way up to fucking 8th grade. So I knew a lot of the people. Um, that didn't help me though. I feel like as it went on, like once middle school hit, that's when things took a real dive for me, and in quality of what I was putting out. I think it was like the end of 6th grade and like the start of 7th, and my grades really started. No, no, no. It was 8th grade because I remember like it was like right before I left to go to high school. My grades like
Oh,
that year started dipping because I started to not care nearly as much anymore. So I'm just like,
yeah.
whatever. Because I think it was 7th grade. I had a really bad teacher that sucked, and I had two of them whose like classrooms are like right next to each other physically and on my schedule. So like I would just have like an hour and 40 minutes of like I don't want to be here. These teachers suck,
Dang.
and it was not fun. But um, like going through elementary school was a lot of fun. I remember one specific moment, like the main year that I remember the most of was year three. I had the most things going for me year three.
Mhm.
Um, I had we had this karaoke thing. Like I think it was like in the middle of the year or something similar. uh, like it was like right before winter break or something like that. And they had karaoke, and only people 3rd grade and below could go there. And I remember we sung two songs that I was a part of that I brought up, and me and my friends sung. That was like "Baby, I'll Catch a Grenade for You," and there was like one other thing.
Bruno Mars.
Bruno Mars, yeah. And it was one other song, but I forgot what it was. But the reason why that was so memorable is because I remember after like it was all over, the two songs that I sung with my friends were the ones that everyone was singing like in the halls of the school. Like I remember like being in my classroom and hearing out in the hallway that song getting like echoed by like hundreds of students, and I'm like, fucking
you're like,
hell yeah,
you're like, yeah, I did that.
yeah, that was me.
That was the peak of your education.
That was my peak right there. It's all been downhill from there. Um, I had my first girlfriend there, had my first kiss there, but the main one that was like, other than the karaoke, that was a real confidence booster, was my teacher had this like pyramid game, right? Where basically you have to solve math problems, and if you do it faster than the person next to you, it's like a tournament. Like you move up in the ring, right? And I remember at some point I beat a person who was like 2 grades ahead of me. Like he was in 5th grade, I was in 3rd, and I whooped his ass. And I'm like, fucking hell yeah. That was the shit. When I
Wow.
fucking I thrashed him, dude. Like if there was a way to body slam somebody in math, I did that. That's what I did, and it really helped a lot. But then middle school hit, and I got really fat, and it didn't help because I just got bullied all of the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Because middle
until
school kids are not very nice.
exactly until about 7th grade when I figured out which group to hang out in, which was the funny kids, because the bullies basically never touched them. And they're just like, these guys are funny. I don't
Which means
want
they're
to do.
cool.
Yeah, which means
Even.
they're cool. So once I like forced my way into that group, I was good to go. But why don't you tell me a bit more of the specifics, and what years and schools stood out to you?
All right. Well, so in elementary school, I think I went to like 3 different schools in first grade. I lived in North Carolina at the time,
Mm,
and I started this one place. Um, and this is like back we the teacher I had, she was old and she was ridiculously mean, and I don't remember her name, but I do remember like going there for like 2 weeks, and they still did the like if you're on green you're good, orange is
mm,
warning, and then or yellow, and then red is you're in big trouble. And I remember I saw I saw this one person get put on red, and then she just straight up cried the whole time. And
mm,
I was like, I saw it, and I was like, oh, so that's what happens when you get put on red. And I got put on red one time, right?
mm.
And so I didn't know how to react when I forget what I did, but I got put on red. And so I saw what that person did, and I was like, so that's what I had to do. And then so I started crying just because that's what I thought I had to do because I got put on red. I actually didn't care. I didn't grasp that I was like in trouble. It was just like I just
I
realized
got
that
put on red, and when she got put on red, she got sad. So I should be
yeah,
sad too.
it was a very like clear like example of how when
Mm.
a person doesn't really know how to react, they just kind of pick
Like they revert back to herd mentality, and they're just
basically
like,
what someone
that's
else
what
does.
that person did, I'm gonna do that too. See, that's what
Yeah.
schools is shaping us as, Tyler. They're shaping us as sheep.
Yeah, it's a mimicry thing, and
Yeah.
so it's. But that was neat. And then so I switched to a different first grade after or a different school because it's either it was a different school or a different teacher because my mom didn't like that person. But
Mm.
that teacher was significantly nicer. Just
Yeah.
significantly like we had like the thing with the gingerbread man, and
Hmm.
like we had like a whole thing going throughout the school. We talked to the lunch ladies, and it was like they opened up their ovens. They were just like, oh no, they just ran away, and they were just like, oh no, we gotta find the gingerbread man.
Gotta
And then
find them, dude.
and
Yo.
the funny thing though is that we I would never have a snack for like whatever snack time was, but and so she kept some in her thing, and then she would always give me one,
Hmm.
and it was like these gingerbread man cookies, and
Yo.
I never really made the connection, and I was like, a little kid brain, I probably should have like been like, oh no, these are the gingerbread men, but no,
Yeah. No,
um,
you couldn't make that mental leap and
apparently
hop you to
no,
piece the
no,
two together, and you're just like,
no.
oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't. I like that teacher. I forget her name, but uh, then winter break happened, and then sometime between like February
Hmm.
and uh the end of school, I moved to Wisconsin. Um,
Mhm.
and that school, I'm still in first grade. That school, they did like, I don't know if you any of your schools did this, but they did this thing where they put first grade and second graders like in the same classroom.
I did not have
And
that. The
yeah,
way that my elementary was set up, um, basically each grade had their own section of the school. So
uh,
I think if you walk in through the front door, to your left, at the very end was first graders, and then like in the middle and the end, like where you came from, was second grade. And if you went down to the right, there was the gym, and then you took like a left, and there's like the library, and then if you went
mhm.
down that hallway, that entire hallway, like from like beginning to middle, was third grade. The end of that hallway was fourth grade, and at the very end it like split off into a T, and that was all fifth graders. um and that's where like I remember the most. I think that's when I got in trouble for the first time, uh
Uh-huh.
when this dude was being, there was this weird kid that like I don't remember his last name, and I don't haven't spoken to him in literally like years. Like it's been like years. But the dude's name was Mitchell. Second I like learned his name, I knew he was gonna be a problem. I knew he was just gonna be a nuisance. Um and I think at some point like we were in line ready to like
uh,
leave, uh and he started like talking to me and being weird and like harassing me, and I think I just called him a bitch. and and he immediately went to the teacher like a
wow.
bitch, and got me moved to a different classroom. um
What grade was
it
that?
was fifth grade. I called him a bitch, I think, or it was that, or I just called him gay. It was one of the two. um
That's very nice.
well, I mean, it was of the time.
It's
Everyone
different
else
now.
was like, because that was the big thing. Like, people discovered that like gay was a word, and that was like the thing. Um, so yeah, I remember I cheated my way out of getting in trouble in first grade too. Um, I knew what the word damn was, and that was like a big uh-oh. And this one lady, she's like, "Hey Jordan, you know, what's your favorite word?" And I don't know why she asked me that, but she was a child like myself, and I said, "Damn!" And then I got called to the teacher's room afterwards,
Uh-huh.
and she's like, "Did you say the D word?" And I said, "No, no, no. I said duh." Like she was asking me a question, and I was thinking, so I
You,
said duh.
you should have just said like as in your like the building
Yeah,
structure.
that's
Damn.
literally, that's what I like. Those are like one of those shower thoughts that I think to myself as I'm in the shower. I just look down and I'm like, I should have said that. I should have said like a beaver dam. I would have gotten away with it, you know.
Yeah.
But like the teacher just looked like disappointed. And she's like, just don't do it again, and I just left. Um,
Uh-huh.
I think another time in the first grade, and this like was only a first grade thing, where we played this game, which was basically, it was just zombies. That was the name of it, and everyone went around with like handguns and would shoot quote unquote the zombies. I don't
Uh-huh.
know how the game worked. I really don't. All I knew that like there was like two people that were the zombies, and everyone else was just going bang bang and shooting at them, and they would just kind of like slowly fumble over, and that was it.
Yeah.
I didn't know how the game worked. No one else knew how the fucking game worked. All I knew is that I don't want to be a zombie because that seems boring. So at one point, the teacher gathered all the class up and she's like, "No more pew pew." And like, when like you make a finger gun, right? You got your pointer finger out and you got your thumb up. Or maybe you have
Yeah.
like your middle finger out too. But that was the way we did it, was just pointer finger and thumb. And I remember specifically, she only did pointer finger and no thumb.
Uh-huh.
And I looked at that and ignored every word because I'm like, that's not how you make a finger gun, you idiot. You're just pointing at
She
things.
just pointed.
Yeah, he's just pointing at things, you stupid idiot. You don't even know how to make a finger gun. I'm not listening to you. Um, and one more thing. on my end before I wrap up, which was probably the biggest one that I haven't told anyone from Midview, partially because I forgot it, which honestly, with the thing that happened, I wouldn't blame myself. I cut my head open.
Mm.
So there was this, it was at the playground. There was, the playground was made out of, this hard plastic thing. And
Uh-huh.
there was stairs and then a pathway, and underneath the pathway there was not a lot of room, and me as a first grader still had to duck to get under it completely.
Yeah.
So it obviously wasn't made to be run under, but it had sharp
Yeah.
corners, and if I duck just enough I can get under it no problem, and I can keep running. Apparently at some point went under it, didn't duck far enough, and busted my head open. My head went straight into the sharp jagged corner, directly into my brain, and I ran at such a velocity that I didn't even feel it. Felt nothing. I kept running. My head was bleeding for the next minute until a student walked up to me and said, "You're bleeding." And then I put my hand on my head, then looked at my hand, and it was covered in blood. And I went, "Uh-oh." And I ran to a teacher, and they're like, my head bleeding. And they're like,
Oh
"Oh
my
shit,
god.
your head bleeding." So I went to the hospital, and I remember that's the first time I saw a person that was a criminal that was in hospital. He was
Oh.
in orange and all that, and I think that was the only time I've ever been to a hospital where I seen a criminal there too. So
Yeah.
I feel like that was maybe part of my, my brain leaking out of my skull, and might have been imaginary. But quite literally, my head was busted open, and they had to put
Right.
staples in it, right?
Oh my god.
So they
Such a
numbed up.
velocity. I
I
did not feel it.
yeah, I didn't feel it, and this is the best part. The people watching this stream is that I never told Tyler this. This is the first time he ever heard me tell him
Yeah.
this story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I busted my head open. They put staples in it, and the worst part, the most painful part, was when they had someone take the staples out,
Oh yeah.
because they had some dumbass nurse who was her first day do it. Quite literally, this was the first thing. They're like, "So we got this new person, this new intern we just hired 2 days ago. We found on the street. We're gonna have her rip the staples out of your fucking skull." And all I remember was just immense pain in my head as someone was forcefully ripping pieces of metal out of my head. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this sucks. As they just cranked it out, and I'm like, oh my god.
Gee.
But yeah, that's that. What do you got, Tyler? You ever had brain leak?
No, I've never had any serious. Well, actually, this. I mean, I do, but it's not school. I'll tell it anyway. I don't give
Yeah,
a
go.
shit. I was 4 years old. I was just in. It was night. I think everyone. I was the only one in the living room. My mom was washing dishes in the kitchen, which they are. It was not an open plan kind of
Mm-hmm,
thing, so it was there's. I had to go through the door to get to the kitchen from the living room.
mm-hmm.
Um, Here I am, just in my sleeping bag, watching Finding Nemo with, for some reason, a can of, I think, oranges or pears. I don't know, either or,
Mm-hmm,
doesn't matter. I think I grabbed it out of the fridge and I didn't tell my mom,
mm-hmm.
but I had the can, and apparently those lids are very sharp. I learned that
Yes.
day. Uh, and I cut the top of my hand somehow. I really honestly I have no idea. I saw the scar from it. I
Mm-hmm.
cut all the way across my hand,
Yeah.
and then I almost cut my thumb off. I had to
Ooh.
go to the hospital. But the thing is, I cut it, and then I didn't realize I cut it. And so I'm watching Finding Nemo, and I just look down and it feels wet, and then I'm just like, "Oh, that's blood." And then so I'm like, I gotta go tell mom. So I
Mm-hmm.
run into the kitchen, and then she's just doing dishes, and I'm tugging at her arm,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, "Mom, mom," and she's not looking down at me. I'm like, "Mom,
Mm-hmm.
mom," and then
Mom.
I'm like, "Mom, I'm bleeding."
Mm-hmm.
And then she finally looks down, and then I don't remember anything after that. But we went to the hospital. I got stitches for the first and only time I ever had stitches.
Yeah.
I don't have a scar on my thumb though, but apparently it was almost I almost actually lost my thumb. I don't know which one it was, but yeah, that happened.
That's pretty
I've
cool.
never had any like very extraordinarily serious injuries. I have hit my head on other people's heads while
Oh.
playing like basketball, and that sucks.
I ran into a
Um,
tree when I was like, I think I was 2. I just ran full speed directly into a tree. Um, don't really know why I did that. Also, when I was like 2, because like I don't remember anything past uh year 3 of my existence. I don't
oh,
remember anything before that. Quite literally,
yeah, it was
my
like 2.5.
latest memory, like as early as I can go, is my 3rd birthday party. Like that is the day I like woke up and I started remembering things.
Yeah, it's weird thinking about that kind of
Hmm.
stuff where
Everything
because
before
you
that
know it
is
happened,
nothing. There
but
was nothing before my third birthday.
yeah, like all I remember is that it was just like nothing. I remember nothingness,
Hmm.
and then suddenly something. And I know you're not like that's not supposed to be a thing, but I don't. It's like I just remember existing,
Hmm.
and I it was very strange.
I
But
like that's what
that's
happened
mainly
with
what
me too. I just existed. I knew who everything was. I knew what my
yeah, that
name
doesn't
was. I
change.
knew what house I was in. I knew my parents. You know, I just popped into existence my 3rd birthday, and I remember like one of the toys I got on my birthday was like this Kane figure from WWE. And that's like some of the stuff that I remember, but I don't remember the day before. I don't remember getting in bed that night. I just remember waking up, getting out of my bed, on the top bunk of my room, and climbing down, and my parents saying happy birthday. That's
Yeah.
all I remember, and that's as far back as it can go.
I
Um,
remember one of my earliest memories is falling. I remember falling off the top bunk of my bed and then onto my floor full of Legos
ooh,
in the middle of the night.
yike,
Yeah,
youchers.
yeah, that
That's
was
not
a
good.
sudden wake up.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, but we're getting a little bit
Yeah, we're
off
getting a
topic.
little sidetracked.
I kind of want to go back to where I was, where I
Yeah,
kind of want to go through the
yeah,
different schools I went
continue.
to. Um, so I moved to Wisconsin and that's when I told you that they did a weird thing where they put first and second graders together.
Mhm.
Um, so I remember the first day I was like, everyone knew. I remember I went there and they appointed me to like this person, like that was gonna be my buddy for the day, and they're gonna show me around. His name is Jordan, by the way. And
It was me.
um
Infiltrated your school in fucking like Georgia or whatever you were in.
no, Wisconsin.
Okay, well, alright.
Close, but not close.
Shit.
So I remember him, and then he showed me around. I didn't like their lunches, and that's cool. All right, so that's when I started forming things in which I didn't like school. That's when I
Mm,
started forming that. It's not that I was bad at it;
mm.
it was that I just didn't like it.
I
And
I had that too, and like I feel like I hit once I got to middle school, the food got significantly better, and then high school was fine, food wise. But
yeah,
elementary was garbage tier food. If it wasn't pizza day, it didn't matter. You're packing your own fucking food. You're not
yeah,
eating that
mhm,
trash unless it's pizza because you
yeah.
can't
That
fuck that up. Um, I
to the
remember
school we
they
went to,
literally
they
ruined
did
spaghetti
pizza
for
every
me.
day.
They
Dude,
ruined spaghetti. I used to like spaghetti, and I think it was like at some point in elementary, and they had this garbage tier spaghetti. It was like yellow and gross, and I hated it. Well, and by yellow I mean like dark yellow, so basically brown spaghetti with like
mhm.
what you could call sauce. I think it was more basically they grab a whole tomato with no gloves on and just squished it in their hand repeatedly until it formed a mush,
I think that's
and then
why I
put that
didn't
on
like
my
marinara.
spaghetti. But it was disgusting, and I like almost threw up,
Spaghetti
and then
sauce.
I never ate it again. I never ate spaghetti. I still don't eat spaghetti. Um,
I like I like spaghetti. It's just like, you know.
Mm,
But yeah, they that actually I actually really like that out of all the elementary schools and all the schools I went to. I liked that one because they in was particularly in elementary school. My teachers were nice. I had friends. There was this one kid who was obsessed with Hannah Montana, but that's all right. That's okay. And we got like, you know, Hershey's Kisses for,
mm,
you know, doing a good job. And I
mm,
remember on uh, St. Patrick's Day. We did a whole leprechaun thingy. It was great.
mm,
And that school for like the last they would do like the alphabet thing, and so for the last few like the last days of school they would do, you know, like A would be something, and then B would be something, and then C would be something, and then like there would be a whole thing. It was really cool. Look forward like to the ending of the year. But it was that like I went there for second grade.
mm,
That's when I started forming. I didn't like school. And so I remember I got out of school by having a bowl of Cheez-Its.
mm.
I would chew it up in the morning, spit it out in the toilet. I'm 9 years old, by the way. I'm like 8 or 9.
Yes.
And then I'd be like, Mom, I vomited.
Yeah.
And then she'd be like, Oh, well, I guess you're still home. And then so I stayed home Monday. I
Mm,
did that again Tuesday.
mm,
I did it again Wednesday.
mm,
Thursday, my mom was on to something on
mm,
Thursday. She realized what happened after I had already stayed home Thursday,
mm,
and then she was like, "Stop lying. You're going to school tomorrow."
mm,
Uh, Funny joke. So the thing is though, I used the same bowl of Cheez-Its
mm.
for that week, and I ended up getting food poisoning because it was all this other stuff. It was just sitting out, and I ended up vomiting for real on Friday, and then I stayed home.
Sneaky bastard gets away with it again.
I I know, like it was real, and so I stayed on Friday, and
Mm,
then so I got out of that was the first actual real attempt out of staying home. But so then second grade was pretty uneventful though. That playground though was actually really cool. This
mm,
school was set up on like a hill, and so
mm.
during winter, you know, it's Wisconsin, so it's northern.
Yeah.
During winter, they get all these sleds out, and then so you could go sledding and all that stuff. But only if you brought your snow gear. If you did not
Mm,
have snow gear, you were on the blacktop. You didn't have a choice. You sat there, did nothing as everyone else had fun,
yeah.
and because you weren't allowed to get go in the snow.
Mm,
I did that only twice during
yeah.
second grade, and it was like the saddest thing.
Mm,
Like you're just standing, walking around on the blacktop as no
yeah.
one, as everyone else is on the snow, and it's just sadness and depression.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
Second
Getting
grade
left out of
was
like activities as a child is the worst.
it is. You're just there, and then everyone else is having a good time. Not even like the aides would like be like, oh,
They won't even like talk to you. You're like
yeah,
they like look
they
at you
wouldn't be
like,
like,
ah,
yeah,
what a
maybe we should like
loser. Didn't
play
even
with
bring a
this kid.
sled.
Yeah, it's just loneliness. And um so then but after second grade in the during summer I moved away. I moved back to Ohio.
Mm,
Um and that's when I went to yeah, for third grade I went to this different school. I did not like this school. I
mm,
did not like it. It was bad. I This is when I started forming more not liking going to school, and
mm,
it got bad. I remember this bald guy was our like lunch aide. I forget his name, but he was really nice actually.
mm.
He was just stern. Um. Oh, by the way, that school in Wisconsin is closed now. By the way, it's closed.
Oh,
Rest in peace, Wilmot.
damn. My
Rest in
kindergarten that I went to shut down quite literally the year after I left. Um,
Oh, it's unfortunate.
I was the last like in kindergarten. There was this big brick wall that you could put your handprints on. I
Uh,
was the last, like the last group. You know, I was in that last group of people
Depressing.
before it left and became like an office building.
Uh, so in third grade, that nothing really happened. The only thing that we switched up. Oh, I forgot. In first grade, I ended up. That's when I started like kind of cheating on tests. I never like. Now I don't like. Before in high school, I never did that, but
Mm,
because I didn't need to. But in there, it wasn't like I was like actually trying to cheat on tests. I just didn't know, and then so I was just like, they might know. So then I would kind of look over, and I remember getting pulled aside in first grade and being like like it was like a spelling test, and then
Mhm.
they had me and the person that I cheated off of, and they were like, "Hmm, you want to tell us something?" And they asked her if she cheated, and she just said no. And then she looked at me, and then
Mhm.
they asked me if I cheated, and I was just like, "What's that?" and then yeah, I got in trouble for that. I did not get a Hershey's Kisses for that, but um
Mhm.
that only ever happened there. But in third grade we started like going to different classrooms.
Mhm.
They're all next to each other, but it was just like this room is science, this room is social studies, and blah blah blah. And that was big step, big step. We
Mhm.
learned how to walk in lines, and we were like, yeah,
Yeah.
close. Uh, fourth grade, same school, same deal.
Mhm.
English teacher was like mean. I became friends with this kid named Jared, uh,
Mhm.
and yeah, he was my buddy. I
I
didn't talk to him much.
the
I still
more
actually I can still
mhm.
talk to him,
The more
but
we talk about this, the more memories I unlock and things
yeah,
I
it's very
remember.
strange.
I remember I told a kid to like he dropped a ball of ice on this dude's fucking face and busted him open. Basically, is the end game here. I told him there was this dude sitting on like the slide, like belly down at the end of the slide, and he was looking up.
Uh,
And I told the kid next to me, I'm like, go get a big snowball and drop it on his face. And the dude on the side like heard us, and he was like, yeah, let's do that. Apparently, um, snow was not in good condition.
uh,
The ball consisted of 50% ice, 40% mulch, and then 10% snow. So when he dropped it on this dude's face, we basically dropped a rock on him, with like sharp, jagged edges pointing out. And we busted his face up, and me and the dude got in trouble.
dude, your
Um,
school goes hard. Like, what
yeah,
the
I
hell
had
did
a
you
cool
even?
school.
I did not
We
have.
killed people, Tyler, in elementary school.
I didn't have that crazy of a fucking upbringing, to be
Hmm.
honest.
Yeah, no, I
I mean,
fucking.
I moved a lot, and that's the
Hmm.
thing.
And you know what the best
Um,
part about that story was? I
what?
got out of it. I didn't get in trouble. The other dude got in trouble because he's the one that dropped the ball. I'm just the one that told him to do it, and he listened to me, and I got
uh,
out of it scot free. I think. Actually, no, wait, no, I did get in trouble. I think they suspended him. They gave me in school suspension, where basically I just went to like a second grade teacher, and I don't think she really cared that I was in trouble. And she's like, "Yeah, just kind of sit over here and cut these papers for me." So I just sat there playing with scissors for the rest of the day, and they only gave me 1 day of it, I think, and I just went back
wow.
to class and it was fine. Um, yeah, Tyler, my schools were ruthless.
I
You know.
mean, I remember. I think in fourth grade, I was part bully, but not really. I was just kind of friends with the people that were bullies
Mm-hmm.
because I think it was partly an attempt to not be.
Bullied.
I didn't like gang up on kids with them, but it was just like it was an attempt to not be bullied by them. I
Yeah.
was never actually like bullied by people in
Mm.
my life. I was not something I had to deal with. I understand, like I see other people,
You know what it
like
is. You just
I
were
know
never
what
on the
it is,
receiving end.
and I was never, because I was always, part of it is an assertive thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was always, I don't know, I just always stuck up for myself, and then not that they don't, it's just like people, I think a lot, like just the matter of being assertive and sticking up for yourself can go a long way in deterring bullies.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just that kind of mindset and confidence kind of deal
Mm-hmm.
that always kind of, I wasn't like a target for
Yeah.
them ever. But I remember there's this one kid named Max who did not like me, and he went to punch me one time, but like he wanted to fight me.
Mm-hmm.
This is fourth grade. He wanted to fight me,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what caused it, but so I okay, so he's just like, let's go, and then so I put my hands up, and then he punches me. He goes to
Mm-hmm.
punch me first.
Mm-hmm.
He punches my fist. Okay, and this kid was actually like, he was really skinny. He
Mm-hmm.
punches my fist, hurts his hand, proceeds to start crying. I get in trouble
Yeah.
for that garbage.
I had
That's
a very similar situation where this girl in the grade above me who was like much bigger than I was. Like I was like pretty fat once I hit like 5th grade, and it just like capped in
Mhm.
middle school where like I was just fat and there was nothing else going for me. I wasn't even tall. Like when I hit high school, that's when like I had my growth spurt and I was like
Yeah,
6 foot.
you got taller.
Um, but in middle school I wasn't that. So I was just this small fat white kid that everybody bullied. But this was in elementary school because it was on like the playground area. Um, and she like swung at me and I just like blocked it basically. I just put my like I was standing at the side sort of and I just kind of put my arm up in a way that made like some sort of like shield covering my face, and she punched that and then started crying. And I think the teacher like kind of saw what happened, so like didn't like I got in trouble to an extent, but I never got like thrown in jail for it or whatever. Like they didn't say like, okay, in school suspension for you, because they saw what happened. Realized I was defending myself. I
Yeah,
just put my
it's
arm up,
part of
and this lady was being a bitch.
yeah, it's still part of the thing where it's just like where the school policy where it's just like, oh, you
Hmm.
all parties included get in trouble, even
Yeah.
if you're the defending
Hmm.
side,
Because that's
because
how
that makes
schools
sense.
work. It's stupid. Like
Schools
the
are
parent, not only that, but like the parents. No matter how much of like a Karen the parents may be, like if your kid is defending themselves, you still realize that like they're in the right still.
they were defending themselves. It
Exactly.
wasn't
And
like
the
they
government even says that's okay, but schools, no, 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 that doesn't fly. If you're getting your ass kicked, you better sit there and take it. Um, yeah, because
yeah.
like they're like, oh, well, there's teachers and they'll do it. Like, yeah, but you know what schools don't have? A teacher every 5 feet along the walls of the hallway to stop a fight from happening. Like, sure,
Yeah.
teachers will show up eventually if some kid's getting like his shit beat in the middle of the hallway. Sure, they will show up, but it might be too late. You know, dude already got the deal. Got the
Yeah.
slam. Um,
When he could have just defended himself.
could have defended himself. Could have. Yeah, see, that's why I
Attempted
think,
at
man,
least.
kids should bring guns to school. This would have never happened if like a bully shows up. And he's like, "I'm gonna fight
Oh
you,
my
nerd," and then the nerd shot him. Like this would have never happened.
dude, why are we in permadeath?
Because that's true, Tyler. If we die during this podcast, we're dead, Tyler.
I yeah, I guess so.
This is a permadeath um podcast, Tyler.
Uh
If we
um
die, it's over. We have to reset, make new character.
I wish that's the case.
Hey,
But
who knows? Who knows, man? Who
you
knows
totally
if?
could. My mom used to think that because apparently I used to mention stuff about having a different house and family
Mm-hmm,
as a like way young, like
mm-hmm,
before I can't remember. Like this is like I'm like 2 or something.
mm-hmm.
Um, but so moving on
Yes.
to my school academic life. Um, 4th grade, same school, but so I'm still in the same area for this spot, like same district, but the school district decided to do something weird and funky for no apparent reason. I have no idea why they did this, but they
Mm-hmm,
did, and they switched the grades around to so like what grades go to what school, like what school.
mm-hmm.
So middle school you start in 6th grade or
Yeah.
no 5th grade.
Oh,
And it was fifth, sixth, and seventh. And I think they threw 8th graders with the high schoolers,
schoolers.
which is
Oh
just sad.
God, they
That
they got like clotheslined. They came in through the door and like the ninth graders who were basically just 8th graders just fucking clotheslined their head off. Because I feel like once you
yeah,
get to 10th grade, that social ladder of what grade you in like doesn't matter anymore, because now you're in 10th grade and like you got bigger things to worry about, like fucking work. Like you have homework and shit to do. You don't have time to worry about harassing the ninth graders. But the ninth graders, they just showed up. They're ready to beat the hell out of some 8th graders. Like dude, I cannot imagine that happening in like the districts that like I grew up in.
thank God
Because like
I moved away from that.
dude, if that shit happened in like the high school that like I could have gone to, like the one in my district, I would not be shocked if like an 8th grader came in through the door and some ninth grader literally like grabbed him around the waist and like German suplexed him and like nailed that dude on the back of his neck and broke his spine. I would not like I like someone would tell me that and I'd be like, yeah, okay. That makes sense. I like honestly the high school in my district. People like were stabbing each other with spoons. Like they would go up to a person and like push a spoon into their back so hard that eventually the spoon would break. Um,
um,
and I'm like,
yeah.
man, glad I didn't go to that high school.
uh, so I was there. I went. I started middle school in fifth grade, and that school was actually used. It used to be a high school and it was repurposed for a middle school. Uh,
Mhm,
so, but we started the whole like you go to all your different classes all over the building type deal, and you have like 4 minutes or whatever to
yeah,
you
to
get your
fucking
stuff in your
scamper
locker.
your little ass over to like across the building.
Yeah, I know. And it was even crazier because we had an annex building. So,
Hmm.
like, there's a big ass long hallway
Hmm.
connecting the main building to this other building. And that's where I had Spanish. I had
Hmm.
a Spanish class. But you had to book it. If
Yeah.
you literally just had to fucking run,
Hmm.
basically. I remember running so many times just to get to that.
Dude, why do high schools do that and like middle schools? Well, yeah, I had that with middle schools too, to an extent. Middle schools
Mm,
was different. One that I went to, it was still kind of like dependent on what grade you were in, on like where you're
yeah.
going, um, to some extent. But man, like Jesus Christ, like why don't they just do the same thing that elementary did? Like, why can't you just put everyone in this grade in this hallway? Like that would make it so
Uh,
much easier. Um,
it would, but I don't. It's. I think part of it is because it's just not. Um, as doable because when you're like in elementary school, it's like the things you're learning are very much like they're much more broader
mhm,
kind of deal, and then
yeah,
they eventually they start separating and getting more complicated.
yeah, yeah.
So it has to be
Like it, yeah.
certain
I
uh,
get it to an extent, but
rooms.
yeah. Um, but like most of the time, like all the way up to high school, all of the buildings that I had for school were relatively small. Even like the high school one that I went to for ninth and 10th, but then I switched to a vocational school. Um,
Uh,
and that's when it got real fucking big. And I'm looking at it and like
oh yeah,
that's like when I went, holy fuck, whoa. Like I know people that had to go like all the way down to this hallway and at the top floor of it, and then have to go back down and go all the way across the building and go down a floor and go into the other section at the completely other end of the building, and it would take them like 10 minutes to get to class. It was ridiculous. Um,
yeah.
I never had a class that was on the second floor of the building. There was like one section that had a second floor, and the few times I've been up there, I always like it was always super fucking hot up there, and I hated going up there.
Yeah.
So like I'm glad I never did. But then I had one class in the basement, but it was like for I had this really cool teacher, who was by far out of every teacher that I had the best. She was the best teacher I ever had. It was a sweet old lady who like had the same sense of humor that like me and you do right now, you know,
Uh,
and that made it so much cooler. Like this teacher watched the Eric Andre show. Like that's how cool of a teacher. She was like 60 or
yeah.
something, or like 50. I don't know. I didn't really ask that, but like she was cool as hell. And I had this ongoing bit with her, where I would like we watched National Treasure at some point,
Mhm.
and I just repeatedly would refer to it as Ghost Rider instead of National Treasure.
Yeah.
And like she would put it on, and I'm like, "Yo, man, this Ghost Rider movie has a long
Yeah, I
intro,
think
huh?"
yeah, I remember that phase of your life when
Hmm.
you went to like the exchange or something. And it's just
The
like yeah,
exchange, and it was all about finding Nick Cage in the Ghost Rider. Um,
yeah.
and I remember I literally bought her the movie Ghost Rider, and she like had it in her
Yeah,
class.
I was there for
So
that.
it was cool. I feel like if you were there, if you went to that school with me,
Probably
you would have
it
liked
would
it.
have been fun,
Mhm.
but I don't know.
I don't know why you
That's over.
didn't. You have so much potential as a smart young lad. You know, I feel like you would have went to a vocational school to like actually learn about work and shit to an extent.
Yeah, but I see. I went there, and then I was just like, there wasn't really anything
For you.
that yeah, and then you chose something weird.
I did. I don't know why I chose it looking back. I really don't know. I went for
Dirt.
dirt. I went for greenhouse management and landscaping. And I don't know why. I don't. I really have no idea why I chose that one. I guess like I really wanted to go to that school because I really hated the old place that we went to.
Yeah,
Because it was
the
hot
place.
as hell all of the time, and I just wanted to get out
Yep.
of there. So like I went through the school, and I'm like, wow, it's either I go to learn about computers or I go play with dirt. And I knew for a fact if
Oh,
I went to
you
computers that it was going to be nothing but fat, sweaty nerds.
chose.
And that was gonna
To
be
be
it.
fair,
And it
I
was.
yeah, I went there for the the field trip thingy to go
Mhm.
see, and yeah,
That's what it
but
was. It was just a bunch of like nerds sitting in a room playing on the computer. And I realized that I did not want to go there because I didn't really feel like it. And I went to
mm.
landscaping for whatever reason. I don't know. But I got to drive around
There was
in a
something
cool
cool
gator,
like
and that was worth
welding.
it.
There was welding there. I went to the welding thing.
Hmm. Yeah, I did that too. I went to welding and I did a bit of that. I don't know what caught me, but I think I saw like the cool car, and I said I want to drive that, and then I ended
Oh,
up doing that.
yeah. I
That
mean,
was
I
like the
guess
main
so.
thing. Like every time she's like, "Hey, can someone go drive the gator up here?" I'm like, "I'm in. I'm done." That's all you
How
gotta
many
say.
plants did you plant?
I planted a lot of plants, Dial. I put a lot of
Did
plants in
you?
a greenhouse. I mean, I learned a lot about plants. I didn't know anything about plants before going there, or about what it took to do it, and I
Uh,
figured it out. And I like plants more to an extent. Um, and I met more people there, and I overall had a better time with the teachers and the students there. And you know what, Tyler? I feel like it was a better school than the high school you stayed at. Because you know what
yeah,
happened at my school that
I
you know what didn't happen at mine that happened to yours? Y'all got
know.
fucking fungus, dude. Y'all got
Yeah,
like algae growing on
we
your
got we
ceilings.
got mold. Yeah, yeah. I remember. Yeah,
I,
it wasn't in the ceilings; it was in the lockers.
yeah, you
But
got
not the
moldy one.
lockers that we were actually at. It was the ones that no one used except like the weird people.
Mm.
I'm calling them weird, but I honestly like it was just people that had those lockers for some
The
reason. I don't know
side
why.
characters, like the
Yeah,
background characters of the movie, which is me and
they
you.
were. The lockers that like lined like along the gym and all
Mm.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was those ones on those long hallways that
yeah.
no one.
Like God, man, I can't imagine having a locker there. Like,
Yeah,
there's no
that's
classes
where the
there. There
mold
was
was.
nothing there.
It's
It was.
because they were supposed to clean them out, but I guess they didn't do it that year,
Mm,
or that summer, and
yeah.
then so that resulted in that. We didn't actually get any days off, but
Hmm.
it
You just
happens.
had to realize that, like, in the building you were learning in, the mere like yards away from you was mold growing and spreading throughout the halls,
It's
infecting
true.
the minds of youngings. You know,
Yeah, it wasn't bad mold. It was just mold.
it was just mold, but it was funny. And then like you
It
guys had
was.
the poop teacher, the poop substitute. That was pretty fun to listen to and like look back at and go
Oh
like,
my god.
glad I didn't have to deal with that. You know, glad my school has money.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I'm move on again.
Yeah, yeah, we're kind of
So
jumping around to the
fifth
next one.
grade, fifth grade. That's when I got glasses. Actually, was fifth grade.
Mm,
That's when I realized I couldn't see, and I remember the exact moment I realized I couldn't see. It was because I tried on this kid's name Julian. His name's Julian. I
mm.
tried on his glasses, and then when I put them on and I looked across the room and I looked at the chalkboard, I realized that I could read the stuff on the chalkboard, and I was like, oh my god, I could see it.
And then he
Because
looked at you and
apparently,
he's just like, "What are you stupid? You need
yeah,
glasses."
because apparently it never occurred to me
That
that
the
it
reason
wasn't
you
normal.
couldn't see is because you need
Yeah,
glasses.
well, that's something that's not completely abnormal though. Like it's like people are colorblind for instance, like they don't
They
know
don't
that they're
realize they're
colorblind.
colorblind until someone like points it out to them.
Yeah, until they point out a discrepancy. Like
Hmm.
when because they just think like world's like that, and
Mhm.
then so it's like, because it's all they've ever known,
Exactly.
and then they find out a situation where it's like, oh wait,
Yeah, like someone
that
goes like, "Look at that blue and that green," and they're like, "Fuck, are
they're
you
like,
talking about? That's the same
that's
color."
brown,
Yeah.
that's fucking brown.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of funny because like it's just not something I noticed and
Yeah.
until I put on those glasses, and I got glasses, and um I think this is probably like where I learned embarrassment
Yeah.
was that grade two, because I like
Mm-hmm.
once you start middle school and stuff. I mean, I know I started it earlier, but it's like that whole transit. Middle school is like where everyone's figuring shit out, kind of deal. I mean, everyone. It's the whole process is figuring shit out, but middle school is where like things change,
Yeah, that's
and
when like
like you said,
things ramp up on like
yeah,
this is how
kids
life
kids
is.
become
Get
more
with it,
asshole-y.
kid.
Yeah, kids become more assholes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like it's ridiculous. But I remember this is where I learned embarrassment
Mm-hmm.
because I got the glasses I picked out. They were like a dark brown, and then
Mm-hmm.
it had like a lighter brown like around the edges. I know you're not gonna really imagine it the way it is, but and then they had this like red stripe that like went through, and it was very faint, but it was there. And I thought it was cool. I liked it, and
Yeah.
but
Other kids
my
didn't
eyes.
think it was cool.
No. No
Oh.
other kids said it, but
Mm-hmm.
so that quarter or whatever, this
Mm-hmm.
is like halfway through fifth grade. That
Yeah.
it was our third or fourth quarter. They
Mm-hmm.
started doing this thing on lunch where we could. It was like a recess thing
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't have recess in fifth grade. We had it was just
Yeah,
lunch, and
because it
then
was now technically middle school, right?
yeah, so yeah, but they were like, wait, these kids are still technically elementary, like they would have been. So they gave us the option to like go into the gym once we
Mm-hmm.
finished eating.
Yeah.
Um, and but my eyesight wasn't that bad yet, so I went in there. I would go in there, and then I would just take my glasses off, sit on the like bleachers or whatever, and then
Yeah.
continue on. I forgot my glasses in there one time,
Mm-hmm.
and so I went back to lunch, and then I was waiting for the period to end, and then one of the teachers, it was my science teacher,
Yeah.
she went up on like the front of the lunchroom, and then she pulled up the microphone and was like, "Is anyone missing any glasses?" And
Oh
like everyone got
no.
quiet. "Is anyone missing any glasses? They look like girls' glasses." And
Oh no.
yeah, that's when I realized, wait, I don't have my glasses. But it didn't occur to me not to go up there
Because
because of
she
everyone.
said girl
It
glasses. Oh
no, yeah,
god.
it only occurred to me that wait, she said girl glasses, and I'm going up all the way up there as a guy
Mm-hmm.
until I was already basically there, and then I
Yeah.
just kind of went up there, grabbed it, and it was the first time I ever like felt embarrassment in in
God,
school, and
no.
it's a thing. And yeah,
Jesus. That sucks. That's gotta
I
hurt.
think
Like punch you in the gut, man.
I think she felt bad
Hmm.
about it afterwards because she was like really really nice to me like
For the rest
the
of the year,
next day.
or yeah.
It was like the next day.
Hmm.
She was never really a mean teacher to begin with, but she was really like I don't know. But
Damn. That like,
yeah.
did you get like bullied for it afterwards, or like did no
No,
one care?
I didn't. It's just the room was really quiet and that
That's the
happened and
worst thing
just
is like when the room gets quiet and you have to do something. That's when it's
yeah.
just like ah. That's like literally like the definition of cringe is
School
like
can
when
be
you have to deal
painful.
with that. Um,
Yeah.
I had a really big transition when um I discovered, music for the first time. Cuz
Mhm.
previously throughout all my years, I didn't have like a phone. I didn't have a computer with the internet. I couldn't listen to music. The only music I could listen to was whatever my mom put on in the car, which was always country music,
Yeah.
which then gave me a steaming disdain and hatred for country music for the rest of my life, which I still feel because I feel like they're stupid. They're dumb songs.
Yeah.
I don't
They
care that
those
you're singing about buying yourself a boat. I don't. I don't care. Um,
Our
but
parents' music influences a lot,
yeah,
whether it
either you
be
like it
for
or you
good
have
or
a
bad.
disdain for it, and you're like,
For
fucking
me, it was a
goddamn it.
good. I like kind of the same music my
Hmm.
parents like, but
But basically, at like our school had uh, these like fake money that they'd hand out, and they're like, if you're good,
yeah,
you get one of these. And I think most of the teachers basically forgot that they had any, So like if a kid was good, they just say good job and then never hand them out. They would just have a wad of them in their desk that they never pulled out. So, and then there were some teachers that I never got that handed them out every fucking day. Like if you showed up to
Yeah.
class, here's a fucking a dollar or whatever that you could. And what you could do with them is you put them in at the front office. You could put them in a box, right? And at the end of the
Mhm.
day, they draw from there. And if your name got called, you could come down and you could get like a coloring book or some candy or whatever. And it was like to promote good behavior. The issue was that like
Yeah.
90% of the teachers weren't fucking even bothering with these things. So like it didn't happen. But at the end of the year, they would put like all of the tickets and like they would collect them all and put them in a big box and draw from that box, and you could get cooler things, like $50 gift
Yeah.
card. You could get a bicycle, cool shit like that, like big ticket items, right?
Hmm.
One point during that, started putting these iPod Nanos out, right? They had called the first one, and they were about to call it. And I looked over at my friends that we were all sitting in the gym, and I looked over at them, and I'm like, "This one's gonna be me. I'm gonna win this one." And they called up the first person. Wasn't me. And I'm like, okay, listen. Next one is me. I'm winning one of these things. It's me. Next one they called was me. I'm a genius. I know the statistics. But they called me up. I went up and I got it. I'm like, yo, this is pretty cool. And then immediately, my mind started racing. Like, what the fuck am I putting on here? The only music that I know is this shitty country music. So I immediately went to emo rock music. My Chemical Romance. That type of shit. I
Yeah.
put like 12 different songs onto there on this iPod Nano, and I started listening to them every goddamn waking moment because I had nothing better to do. And this was my first experience with music and like doing that. So like I'm looking back, I'm glad I had my emo phase back there and I didn't hold it off till high school.
Yeah.
Because I know that would have fucked me in the ass if I waited till high school to have my emo phase. I would have gotten fucking dog piled on. That would have not been good. Um, but I had it then, and then by the time I hit high school, I already knew what my taste for music was, which was like hip hop and like rock ish and stuff. Um, but
For
like
me, it's
that
like
iPod Nano
alternative.
really opened my eyes to like, wow, this is music. It's not a guy singing for like 3 minutes about buying himself a boat. You know,
I think
it
what
can be
you
about other
listen
stuff.
to can also be described as alternative.
Yeah.
We have kind of similar tastes in music. Yours is just like a different kind of alternative,
Mm,
sort of.
yeah.
But for me,
I
it's like old rockish type stuff,
yeah, like
and
I like
there
old rock.
there's like modern hip hop stuff like
Mhm.
songs that I like. It's just I don't like mainstream ones usually that much. And then
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's a bunch of weird stuff for me right now, and like hip hop, and like I like classic rock. I do. It's just not something I'm gonna listen to every single day. But a dude singing about a brand new shirt that he got. Yeah, I'm in. I'll listen to that every single day. He got a brand new shirt. I'm in. Which I listen to that a lot now, and
Brooks,
it, yeah,
Bigger,
bigger. But no, it's a good song. I
on
really
her
enjoy
rant,
it. I'll have to
don't want
show
to
you
rant.
it here in a second, but it's a really funny song. Um, but yeah, no, that really opened my eyes to music. Like before that, the only music that I had that wasn't country was this like disc player that had music from like wrestling on it because like my dad was very into wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very into wrestling.
Yep,
So
still is.
that's what I had to listen to, which like opened my eyes to like hip hop and some other stuff. But there was not a lot of songs on there that were good to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And by good I mean like would qualify as a song. Um, so like that really didn't help too much. But the iPod Nano that did a lot for me.
What you got from school? That's how it relates.
Yeah, I got it from school, and that's how it relates. And that was like completely changed my personality for a while. Um, and I feel like if I
Mm-hmm.
didn't win that, I still would be like inept to like music and like what good music can be.
Honestly, I never really got into music. Like I did not do that until like sophomore year. To
Hmm.
be honest, it was like freshman and sophomore year
Yeah.
of high school. kind of deal. Because I remember people would ask me what kind of music I listened to. I had literally, and then I would just kind of be quiet about it, and then just like what, and it's just like like it's not that big of a deal, and I was just like, I genuinely I did not have an answer to give them.
Yeah.
Like there were songs that I liked, but I didn't know how to describe it,
Yeah.
and there
It's
was
just,
there was
the
just kind of
ones with the guys and he's talking.
yeah, and then but like growing up, there were songs I liked from One Republic, and then but it was just like I didn't know until like freshman year kind of deal, and
Mhm.
then I started like listening, like I had my headphones and stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna move on
Mhm.
through my stuff. Fifth grade, going to sixth grade, I moved from Ohio to Savannah, Georgia.
Mhm.
And so this is in the South is a completely different culture and climate to everything in
Yes.
Ohio.
Mhm.
And so that affected the public schools that I went to, but the middle school I went to, um so actually when I moved there, I was in sixth grade, which was the beginning grade for middle school down there. And so it was basically I was at the bottom of the rung again. Um
Yeah.
and so but this school is completely different, and this school is apparently they were just like, oh, we're top 5 in the country, which honestly I think is bullshit. But whatever. Moving on. We had uniforms. First time I ever had to have uniforms where we had to wear.
Ew.
It was like a dark blue polo shirt, as well
Mhm.
as khaki pants, and then a belt
Mhm.
with nice shoes every day. Also, we had to have mesh. It had to either be a clear plastic or mesh backpacks so that they could see the stuff that we had.
Mhm.
And then we did not have lockers, so that like we couldn't like hide stuff. So we had to carry our stuff from class to class
Yes.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, which I honestly, it was nice having the backpack in class because that's not something that
Yeah.
we could do in
I
our high school.
had that when I went to the vocational school where we didn't really have lockers. Like there were lockers there, but it was only for like
But,
the freshmen and the
yeah,
sophomores that were there. Like
uh-huh.
once you had like an actual fucking like job to be doing to an extent, like they're just like fucking whatever, just fucking bring your backpack, no one cares. And like I think junior year did at our high school did we have a uniform we had to wear?
No.
No. Oh, I had uniforms to wear at fucking middle school. Holy shit, I completely like blanked
What?
that out of my memory.
How did you forget that we didn't have uniforms?
Because I remember at like
You
one
had a
point in my
uniform
life, I had
at
to wear
the other
uniforms to
place.
school, and then basically the me and the rest of my grade overthrew this rule and like went back to normal. I think it was in middle school, I think sixth grade. It was like
Yeah,
you had to
I
wear
had a sub that she tried saying that it was like it would be complete pandemonium if they let us wear our own clothes. And yeah, I think I
if
told
someone's wearing jeans and a graphic
literally
t-shirt, you're gonna start killing each other.
yeah, we literally like the entire classroom just exploded on this old lady that tried making that outrageous claim
Mm-hmm.
that it would be pandemonium with if we wore normal clothes. But it was funny.
I mean, yeah, I think it was like khakis, and you could wear like a plain shirt. Couldn't have anything on it.
Yeah,
And I think
you
over
had
the
you had a
years,
uniform at your thing.
yes, we did. We had to wear like I
It
think
was
because it was
it
just a
had the
shirt. You had to wear a shirt that had like the word like the school on it. That was what you could wear.
yeah.
Um, which I thought was stupid and everyone else thought was stupid. But they had a wide variety of those shirts. Like you could wear a t-shirt. There was like crew necks. There was
So it
like
wasn't
zip
that bad. They were
ups.
trying to alleviate the pain, but
Yeah, like but you could still. I think you could still wear like jeans. I think, and that's the main
pretty
thing
sure you
because
can. Yeah.
khakis are not comfortable to you know fucking work on a car in or
Yes, you guys were doing physical labor.
exactly. And khakis are not the most the easiest thing to maneuver yourself around in.
I mean, jeans aren't that much either, but they're better than khakis.
Yeah,
That's
and, like there, it's like a different material, so like it got a little less dirty. Like if you spilled a little bit of dirt on jeans, you could brush it off
yeah,
with your hand. You're good to go.
that and
If you
it's
got that on
jeans, so
khakis, it ain't
it's not
coming
that
out.
big of a deal.
You got
Yeah,
dirt khakis now. That's who you are. You are dirt khakis, man. And if you had that job, like that thing at the beginning of school, you got stuck with dirt khakis for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So like I can see why they got rid of that, because I think that it was like that for a little while, and then they just like, yeah, fucking wear jeans, I don't care. But at the middle school though, like I think we got either like a new not principal, a vice principal or a new principal, and they started like overthrowing this rule because they're like, this is stupid, and people don't like it. So like eventually they got rid of the khakis and you could wear jeans or whatnot. And then they're like, okay, you can wear whatever shirt. Okay, you can wear hoodies. Who cares?
Yeah.
But you have to wear this ID thing. Okay, no, you don't have to wear the
I,
ID. Nobody cares.
yeah, I had the ID thing in Savannah.
IDs,
We had to
like,
wear it on a lanyard. And
yeah.
we always had to keep it on us, otherwise you'd be infraction or whatever. I
Because
told you about this kid where he physically could not have a belt on
Mhm.
because he was diabetic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so he's one of those kids that had a like the tube that
Mhm.
like goes through the pants. And I remember it was the same. I told you this, where it's the same gym teacher guy that would just pick out this kid, and he'd just be like, "Why does he have your belt on?" And it's just like, I can't put on a belt because
Mhm.
I am diabetic
Yeah.
and I have tube.
Mhm.
And it was the same fucking. This happened so much throughout the year. It was the same dude kept picking out the same kid, and
Mhm.
it was ridiculous. Like
God.
that school. Honestly, that school is probably my least favorite school. I learned a few things though. I learned that you could eat a pear just like the way it is
Yeah.
because they gave that to us, and I was like, I remember when I first saw that at lunch, I was like, huh?
How am I supposed to eat this?
I mean, I ate it, but I was just like this. I didn't like it. It was very. I like canned pears a lot more.
Yeah.
They're better. But and then I discovered really religious kids,
Ooh.
people.
Yeah.
This is when I had my first like encounter with like extraordinarily religious people, and it was this because it was this kid named I kind of forget his name, but I remember this is also when I had access to YouTube a lot because I got my first phone.
Mhm.
And so I was like watching Vsauce. I was watching like all this stuff. I was learning so much
So
power
much science.
and knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was learning a lot and about space, and because I really like space, and then and all this stuff. And I remember one day in science class, and I had this kid sits next to me, and I remember we were just working on a worksheet together, and I was telling him about how crazy it is, how like big the universe is, and how it's most like how it's likely that there's other like people, well, not well, maybe
Like
people,
aliens and shit. Yeah.
aliens that they're just like us or anything like
Mhm.
like they're out there, we just don't know they exist and they don't know we exist. And he's just like, no, I don't think so. And I was like, what do you mean? And
It's
I was
like, but Jesus. Like, oh, okay.
yeah. And then he was just like, well, he's like, it was not in the Bible. And I was just like, so
What's a
and
bibble?
well,
What was
actually, it was the exact same time where it's down there. I tried to read the Bible. I like tried reading it starting from Genesis. I got
Mhm.
like 3 pages in, and my little kid brain couldn't handle it.
I'm bored. This is stupid. When do the
couldn't,
dinosaurs come in?
and they don't. But and this kid, he was just like, it's not in the Bible, so it doesn't exist. And I was like, even
Cell
with that
phones aren't in the
logic,
Bible, so they don't exist.
yeah, I was like, even with that logic, like if God, all right, God's the writer of the story, even with that logic, isn't it possible that there's other stories?
Yeah.
Why do we have to be the only story?
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, like following that logic, which the origin of Earth and
God made
everything,
one
like,
book, and he's like, "All right, I'm done. I'm gonna go make YouTube videos
yeah.
now." Like, come on, like a writer doesn't
Yeah.
make one story and be like, "All right, I'm done. I'm good to go."
Yeah. This same exact kid actually, he also believed that you shouldn't fight people, and I mean, in the sense of defense, like defending yourself. And because I remember I asked my dad if he would be mad at me if I got in a fight with another kid at school one
Mhm.
day, and then he said no, as long as you were defending yourself. And I was
Yeah,
just
my
like,
dad said the same thing.
yeah, I took that to heart, and then I
Mhm.
remember going to school the next day, and I'd be like, my dad said that I could fight someone as long as I'm defending myself, and I told him that,
As long as I'm defending myself, I can fucking beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, and I remember I told that same kid, and he was just like, "No," and I was like, "Why?" And he's just like, "Well, why do you have to fight someone?" And I was like, "Well, what if they're fighting you?"
Mhm.
And so
At that
it
point,
was
you
just
should have taught him. You know, you should have just like taken a swing at him, and
this
he's like,
guy.
"Don't even put your hands up, kid, because Jesus will protect you." And then you fucking like nail him in the face. You fucking like knock us. It was like lights
I
out, and
hope
you're just like,
I
"Dude, what
hope
happened?"
I hope he learned. I forget his name. I feel bad about that, but yeah. So sixth grade was interesting. It was an
Mm,
interesting year. That is actually where I probably said the most sexist thing I ever said in my entire life, and I feel bad. Like I regret it to this day. And like, there's like moments in my life, like there's in anyone's life, I feel like, but
yeah,
like
where like you say or do
there's
something that you're like,
there's
"Man, I really
pillars,
shouldn't have done that."
there's like pillars of your life where it's just like this is where you learned
Hmm.
something important,
Yeah.
and that was one of those times where like I learned that that's wrong
Hmm.
and like hella wrong.
Yeah.
And because I remember, it was in my art room, and the teacher told me to clean up something. I think I forget. It had something to do with cleaning up, whether it was properly or just like in general. And I think she said something, but I ended up saying, um, "I'm sorry, I'm not a girl." And in terms of when it
Sorry, I'm
came
not
to
a
her,
woman. I'm not good at cleaning things, lady.
yeah. And so I remember the look on her face. Oh my
Oh
god,
God.
it was a mixture of like anger and just like shock from what I just
Jesus.
said. And I was at that moment, like I realized the consequence of my actions of saying that, and I was like, "That's let's not ever do that again."
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
weird.
so
What grade was this again, Tyler?
that was the sixth grade.
It's weird to think that like you saying that you evolved so much as a person that 4 years later, me and you are cleaning a sink better than the women. Better than the women.
Oh
They
my god,
couldn't like, dude. Okay,
dude!
we're gonna skip ahead to 10th grade. Me and my boy here, Tyler, we got art class together, right? Um,
Yeah,
and there was these two sinks, right? And they would get full of like fucking paint and gunk and whatnot, and full of just fucking shit, right? And the teacher like brought our table
it was the end of the year. Yeah,
to go in and clean them. And there was two girls at our table, and me and Tyler. We picked one sink and they picked the other, and we cleaned our sink so goddamn well. We went over to
it
theirs and were
was
disgusted.
spotless.
We were disgusted by their job. We did amazing. Like I remember, like I think I had like the like the water gun, like the like squeeze thing, like you squeeze the handle and like
Yeah,
water shoots
and
out.
I'm like scraping crap
Yeah, and you're like
away, like
scraping
the
crap, and
paint.
I'm like shooting it down into the drain to like a point where our sink is spotless. And we looked over at the girls and like, you fucking idiots, you can't even clean a sink right. Like we just like hammered these like poor women who did an inferior
Well,
job
all
to
right.
us.
No, no, the issue was that she was claiming that we weren't cleaning our sink properly, even
Yeah,
though it was spotless.
spotless, and like we did like 20 like 1,000% more of the job that they did. Like they went over
Yeah,
there
it was,
and like spat on the sink, rubbed it in a little bit, and said, "All right, I'm done." Like wow,
and the
ours was
teacher
spotless.
agreed with us.
Teacher said, "Yep, these boys, they know what they doing when it comes to sink cleaning," and I'm like, "Damn right."
Yeah, we did good. We
Mm-hmm.
did good.
But that was the only thing I ever gained out of that art class because I'm not good at art and I never got better at art. So so
I
that
don't
was
know
about it.
how. Yeah, I feel like I plateau in art. I plateaued a little bit. Like it didn't like get better. It was just like I was just kind of outputting the same
Mm-hmm.
quality I was at the beginning of
Mm-hmm.
all the years that I had an art class. There was like 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
3 years of art, and it hadn't changed. Actually, I did. It was like senior year. Was it senior year? I don't know. Maybe it was. It was.
Mm-hmm.
I made a self portrait of myself, and it looks so accurate. Like it was like crazy,
Yeah, I think
crazy
you
good.
showed me
I
this
don't.
and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
good.
it literally like it looks exactly like me from this picture I took,
Mm-hmm.
and I like the mouth. I was so scared of doing the lips like
Yeah.
part because like you have to like shade it in the
Mm-hmm.
right way. It was scary. My ear looked good, and like the vein on my arm, just
Mm.
that was like my most impressive piece of art I've ever arted in my art life.
Yeah.
But
I never did that. I think I peaked like third grade when I traced line of a fox really good, and that was my peak. Was like tracing something with such accuracy that it looked good. That was where I peaked, and then it was just like downhill. Like I think the next year I did no art at all, and I lost all of the skill that I and the potential and momentum that I once had. I lost it all that year, and then it
uh-huh.
was just like garbage tier from then on out. I used to draw a lot
Yeah,
of stick figure things, like stick fights that
that's
were
what
like
I would
just
do.
like stick
Oh my
figures
god,
and like having a
dude, we had the
war.
same thing. Yeah, yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
fucking, we're
Dude, it
synergy,
was
dude.
I I really liked having like large scale things. I
Mm,
liked my favorite, like Where's Waldo, like that kind of stuff. I liked having like things where every so much was happening. Like
yeah.
I liked being able to look over here and be like, oh, they're doing a thing,
Hmm.
and then like look over here and there's like another thing's happening. Like there's
Yeah.
so much I
Yeah,
like
I know.
large
I did
scale
the same fucking
things.
thing.
So
I
I
had
did.
like literally a stack of like 20 different like fights going on and wars and shit, like in a desk
Yeah.
in my house, just like sitting there. And that like at some point during like middle school, I looked back and I'm like, wow, these are crazy. And then I threw them away. Because, I
Yeah,
look
there's so
back and
many
I
I made.
reminisce and I'm like, wow. And then I threw them out.
Yeah, and then there's so many I made, and then there's one I made of the it was the Black Ops 2 map, the zombies map with the the towers. I forget the name of that one. It was a DLC map,
Oh,
and
I
it
didn't
was
even play too much of the DLC for Black Ops 2.
do you know what? It doesn't matter really. It was just
No.
skyscraper shit, and then so it
Oh,
was like
oh, I like the map was upside down. Like all the buildings were upside down and shit. Kind of.
some of them were.
Yeah,
So
I played on that one once with my friend. I thought it was annoying jumping from building to building.
it was, but it was cool when it came out. I had a
Yeah.
good time, and then uh yeah, and then I made one up to that
Mm,
of that. But all right, I'm gonna move on
yeah.
because that's pretty much everything that happened in sixth grade. I had some good teachers. I had some bad teachers. It wasn't crazy, but
Yeah.
so sixth grade, seventh grade, I moved from Savannah, Georgia, back to Ohio, and I moved to a wealthier location. I was not wealthy, but
Mm,
I was happened to be in a wealthy location, and so the public school that we had money, and
yes.
so they gave us all iPads.
Ooh.
I'm in seventh grade, and so this is middle school still. And it happened again where like they reset the thing, so like I'm at the bottom of the grades in
Yes.
this middle school I went to. So
Mm,
like seventh grade, there's nothing below me, and so I'm still haven't gone up the social ladder at all.
yeah.
Um, but we have iPads, and that was like the darndest thing. And I was like, I had good time on that because I think my phone broke, and so I couldn't do anything. But I had an iPad. We were able to play games and stuff. It was pretty cool. And the desk that we had, I think I've shown you it. Like the desk we had, like they had wheels and they had like a circular base, and then like the arm, like the actual desk part.
Mm,
Like how on a normal desk, like there's the arm that has the desk part that could move. So like it could like move to the right, and then you could like get up and then stuff. And then
God,
so
man.
the
I
whole
wish
point
at
was
some
that
point in my life I had gamer desks at
I
school. Like
I
that.
know
God.
it was so good, and it was like we could move the setting of the classroom like
Mm,
every day basically. Like
yeah.
it switched, and it was nice. Then so I think this is where I started forming a outgoing personality. I had one like younger, but then I kind of like quieted up
When like you
for
got like
it was
continuously
fifth
moved to
and
other
sixth.
schools and like you couldn't
Yeah.
really like
All
be
right.
rambunctious and shit like that.
Well, right. So when I moved a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
so I was always I never really had an issue with making friends until I moved to the school that we met and stuff. I never had like it was just not a thing I had problems with. I always had friends where I was, except when I initially moved here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was actually never really a concern to me. I get it for people that like only move like once in their life, and
Yeah.
so they have like all those set friends that they've had for years upon years upon years. But it was
And
just
then
like
just
that's not
ripped away
to
from
me.
you.
Yeah, to me that was just like that was something that it happened on a yearly basis, and so I was just like, it was
Used
something
to it.
it was yeah, it was I just you had to be partially outgoing in order to make friends. So I guess in fifth grade and well, fifth grade I like stayed from fourth to fifth, but in sixth grade and seventh grade I didn't really have any issues. I'm still friends with some like people I was friends with in seventh grade. Sixth grade I wish I could contact them because I think we would be still friends. But
Mhm.
I'm the only one I kept in touch with is the person that was like neighborhood friend,
Yeah.
not the school guy. But uh seventh grade it was like honestly crazy. I became more outgoing, and so some of the teachers didn't like me because I was kind of a class clown
Yeah.
character kind of deal.
Yeah.
And I wasn't like I was smart in the classes, but I also didn't do work in the classes, and so
Yeah.
it was like
Hmm.
it was kind of like a whole thing. And I remember my math teacher really did not like me.
Ooh.
And it was like he was fed up and he had issues with me. I don't know why, to
Mm.
be honest. I wasn't like that rambunctious in the class. It was just like I just didn't do that much work in the class, and
Mm.
so he just like hated me. But um,
I had a really
that's
like it was really flip flop for me on like depending on what classroom I was in. If I was in a classroom where I knew nobody, and like this followed me into high school too, right? Where I could, if I knew no one, I was the quietest kid in that class, sat in the back, talked to
yeah.
no one, said nothing. And every time we'd go for teacher conferences, they'll be like, "Yeah, he's really fucking quiet. He doesn't say anything. I think he has a tumor." Um, and then in other ones, I was talking all of the time, talking to the students, talking to the teachers, and I was good at it because I was friends with the majority of the teachers. You know, like the teachers that I had that I was rambunctious in, like understood. Like they got annoyed after a point. You know, like if you're like, "Okay, Jordan, calm down," you know, but like for a majority of it, they're right there with me and stuff. So like then for those teachers, it's really flip flop because like my parents are over there thinking I'm bipolar because like they're hearing from one class, yeah, he talks all the time, and then they're hearing from another class that's like next
Yeah.
period that's like this dude is having a stroke in my class. He isn't saying any. He barely moved. Like I don't think he's breathing back there. You know. So like
Yeah,
that
I
it
kind of had
was
the
really.
same kind of deal a bit
Mm,
sort of thing, but it was more like if I didn't like the people in the class rather than if I didn't know anyone because I didn't
mm,
really have an issue like connecting because the way I acted kind of depended on the person. Like
yeah.
I was always able to adapt
Mm-hmm.
to the person I was having. Like I would even change the way I talked to the point where like it was like to them. It was like a subconscious thing. I only noticed it in like sophomore year that it happened,
Yeah.
but there's times where like if there was like a group activity in a class that I was normally like quiet in, like there's a few times I think in high school where it like something happened that day where I was just like overly active. I
Mm-hmm.
remember like I got in trouble in a class that I was normally really quiet in, but it was they it was like I was like really loud and like doing something. I forget what, but it was very strange that day. I thought I was high on something, but
Yeah.
or they did. They thought I was high on
Yeah.
something because I was normally just didn't say
Quiet, didn't say
crap,
anything.
and then
Yeah.
I was like suddenly that day it was like everything was a big deal to me,
Mm-hmm.
but uh yeah,
Um.
it's I don't know. I feel
Yeah.
like that might be
I
something that
that I
everyone
think that
has.
might be like with everyone though. You know, like the kids that
Yeah,
you may
where
see that
they
are like
just kind of
quiet
like
as hell are like loud and rambunctious in other classes. It just depends on who they're with. You know,
well, some people are just like
quiet all the time.
always
Yeah, like there's
that.
obviously people that are loud all the time and people that are quiet all the
Yeah,
time. But like I feel like there is more people in that middle section than we think. You know.
probably. Yeah,
I would say so. I don't feel like me
because
and
there's a
you
lot
are
of people
like
that like
unique. I
I
think
would
we're just in the
see.
minority in
There's a
terms
lot
of
of people that I would see that like I just never interacted with, like ever. Like they just like, we would just walk
yeah.
past them,
They just exist, and you're just like
or
they're
they're on the
real.
other side of the room,
Yeah,
and
and then you're
yeah,
just like
just no
okay,
big
bye.
deal.
Yeah. Um, I was about to say
Um,
something. I had something to say, but I forgot about it. Shit. Um, God, man, I don't know. I totally forgot what I was about to say there.
weird. Uh, but seventh grade. Honestly, all right. As a school, it wasn't that bad. Some of the teachers were bad. I remember one time I cheated for this kid.
Mm-hmm.
I He didn't want to do this project, and it was that same math class. The teacher didn't find out though. Where we had to recreate the whole school in this like it's like a CAD program, if you know what that is. It's like it's like a blueprint
Mm-hmm.
thing. It's something like architects use to like design buildings.
Yeah.
Um, so we had to recreate the whole school in this program. It was
Mm-hmm.
pretty honestly. I thought it was really cool. At the time, it was actually something I wanted to do. Like I wanted to become an architect and
Yeah.
then make buildings because I was on my Minecraft fucking rage still,
Mm-hmm.
which I discovered Minecraft like years prior. I was like one of the OG Minecraft players, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
another story. Uh, but I I did everything for this kid, and honestly, it was essentially just copying the one I did because it
It's a
it's the
school.
same
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
It's
It's the
the same
same
answer. It's
answer.
not like the school's gonna fucking change. But
Exactly.
the kid gave me it was in exchange for like over 100 pieces of gum, and
Ooh.
because this kid was actually like he was wealthy. I
Yeah.
was not, but and so he gave me over 100 pieces of gum, and
Mm-hmm.
that was like a
That
big
was the
deal.
currency, dude. That is school currency right there. If the teachers wanted to give a student something for being good, give them gum. Because that will fucking, like, this kid will have the time of his life in that class if he has gum to chew on. Like,
It was something, but
mm-hmm.
not much else happened there. I mean, there was still stuff happened. Like I formed friends and stuff. Actually, hold on.
Whoa.
Gym teacher. Gym
Whoa.
teacher. Okay.
Yeah.
Gym teacher. I don't know. He might have been a creep
Mm-hmm.
because one time I was wearing a college shirt to school
Mm-hmm.
and like a button up, and I changed out of it for gym,
Mm-hmm.
and then after I changed back after gym class, and then we were changing again. I guess I put on my button up shirt
Mm-hmm.
and I had my collar up. I forgot to put my collar down, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't notice it. So like I just had my collar up, like like how the cool kids would have it like
Yeah.
20 years prior.
Mm-hmm.
But fucking so I walk out, and then so we're all waiting for the bell to ring to go to the next class, and I'm just standing there like talking to my friends, and for some reason they didn't say anything, but I'm just there, and the gym teacher walks right up. He was like 15 feet away. He walks right up to me, does not say a word, and just grabs both sides of my collar, like around my neck, and then
Mm-hmm.
just puts them down, and
Yeah.
then and he just kind of patted my shoulder and then walked away.
Huh.
It was like
What the
I was
fuck?
like, what?
Yeah. That's weird. Like, I could, like, get that if, like, it's your, like, dad or, like, a parent or something just walking up saying nothing and doing that. But, like, just, like, a dude, like, a teacher just walking up and just, like,
Yeah.
hey, like, not saying anything, just be like, I'm gonna ruffle with your shirt for a second and
He
then
could have
leave.
just said, Tyler, your collar's up. And then I
Yeah.
would have been like, oh,
And you would have put
thanks.
it down, you know?
But no,
God.
I don't know. That was very weird.
Man.
Hopefully that doesn't become anything.
Yeah.
So, but after that year, um, I moved to where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been here for 5 years since eighth
Yeah.
grade.
Yeah.
Have not moved. And it's honestly really strange because it would be some climatic event that would happen in the summer, and then we would move. Like
Like,
something would
you know,
happen,
like your parents just, like, killed a guy and they're like, Tyler, we gotta move, you know?
something like that, and then so we would move. But the one leading from seventh grade to eighth grade, we just bought a house.
Yeah.
Well, no, we didn't buy the house.
Mm-hmm.
We're in like we're renting it from my family, my
Yeah.
aunt and uncle. But
Mm-hmm.
eighth grade, you weren't here for eighth grade, but
Nope.
so being in the new building because they spent money to redo the middle school at that
Yep.
district. It was nice having air conditioning.
Yeah, which then they ripped away from you. I've been in there before, like for the ROTC that me and you did. I've
Oh
been in there
yeah,
before, and like, God, it's a nice place. You got like a fucking courtyard in a
yeah.
middle school. Like, what
Uh-huh.
the fuck?
Yep.
That was cool
We
as
actually
shit.
we technically have one we had one at the high school. It was just blocked in by the fucking child development rooms and the cooking rooms. And I don't know
Exactly.
why they had it. It existed though,
Oh yeah,
but
that is right. I remember I
it was
like
very
could
small and
see it
sad.
like ninth grade. Like I had a science class that like looked into that courtyard, and I would
Yeah,
see it every day, and then notice how no matter what, no
it
one
was
ever
very
went through
sad.
there. Like at that point, why even fucking have it? Like
I don't know.
at the middle school,
They
right?
could
It's
have just
big enough,
expanded
and
stuff and
like
made a
the
storage
schools
room or anything.
exactly like at the middle school, it was big enough to where like if you went through it during like the spring or during the fall when it wasn't like snowing and it wasn't like 2 degrees outside, like it would make sense. You could get the classrooms quicker. You could get a breath of fresh air. All that cool jazz. But that one was completely useless. It was just there. Like
It was just
why?
outside. You want to go outside? Bam! There you go.
Bam! Like it was
Sadness surrounded by
stupid.
brick.
Yeah. Like that one was big enough where like there was like a tree or something there, right? Like there was like trees, like there was grass.
In the
There it
middle
was just
school?
like here's a
Yeah, it was a
brick
nice
like
little
here's a
garden. There's a bench you could
concrete
sit down on.
patio with like a bit of grass and you're surrounded by bricks on all sides. And like
Yep.
it was barely the size of like a room, you know? It was
Mhm.
stupid. Pissed me
Yeah.
off.
In middle school, we had it was like a garden type deal, and there was a bench that you could sit down on, and it was nice. I sat there like maybe twice
Mm-hmm.
during class because you don't have time to do shit.
Yeah.
But um, eighth grade, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about eighth grade. It was a very weird year
Mm-hmm.
because it was the first time since like forever where I did not get a like best friend kind of deal. So
Mm-hmm.
like it was not a thing. So eighth and freshman year, I didn't have one
Mm-hmm.
really. Like there's people I was friends with, and then there was like one main character, but it was not to the point where like we hung out after school
Yeah.
or did stuff
Mm-hmm.
outside of school. So it was just kind of like they weren't really like we were friends, but like yeah. And
Didn't
then
really
so
go to
eighth
anywhere.
and freshman year, it was kind of strange, and I don't know. I honestly I don't know if I was like in a depressed state. I don't remember how I felt
Mm-hmm.
back then,
You were
but
definitely different than what you are like sophomore year. Like
yeah,
there is quite a huge change. Like I didn't notice that at the time, but looking back, the freshman you and sophomore you were like very different people. You clearly felt way more comfortable with me around and way more comfortable talking to me. Um,
well, in sophomore year, I remember I made that decision to just walk up to you and like in that art class, I didn't like I saw you were back there, and then with like the other person,
mm,
and I didn't know anyone else in the class, and I was just like, you know what, I if since they're allowed back there, I'm not gonna just sit here by
mhm.
myself, and I just like I made that decision to just walk back there,
Yeah,
and that's one of the
that's what brought
best
us to this
decisions
point.
I have ever made in that high school was
Mhm.
that because I don't know what would have happened.
You would have
Um,
continued to be a nobody in my life. You would have faded out of like into like
I feel like we would have
irrelevancy.
interacted, but
I
if I
probably
didn't
would
make
have
the
came up to
decision,
you at some point if you didn't do that.
could have. No, if I we would have like I don't know if I would have gone back there. And
Mhm.
then the whole thing, because you remember how like I don't know, like we were in that back corner, and then we weren't allowed to be in that back corner, so we were on that like back table for
Yeah,
a
in the
while,
back table. Yeah,
and and then eventually we weren't allowed to be in the back table anymore, and then so that's what put us in that table. So
yeah,
like
and
that
that
wouldn't
what
have
put us at
happened.
that table with those two girls where we fucking we cleaned that sink so
Yeah,
damn well. You know.
but we wouldn't have been put at that table if I'd never went back there, kind of
Yes.
deal. So like, or at least together, at least
Hmm.
it would have been a
I don't
different
even know why
feel.
they kicked us out of those two areas. Honestly, we weren't
Um,
too loud. I don't
well,
think.
in the back corner, we got pushed out because they were like drawing stuff
Yeah.
like on newspaper or whatever, and then so we got put on the back table.
Hmm.
And then on the back table, eventually we got kicked out because she was cutting stuff, and then so
Yeah.
uh, but then for some reason we weren't allowed to go back in the back corner
Hmm.
because I don't know, it was weird.
Dude, like we were the cool kids of that art class, man.
Yeah,
We really
like
were. Like we
everyone else
got all
sat
the
down
cool
at their
spots.
tables,
They're also we
fucking
had standing desks, very good for our
yeah.
posture. You know what I mean?
It was so
And by
much
that I
cooler.
mean it wasn't because we were always like hunched over at the table, like working on something. Like we weren't standing up straight. We were like hunched over, like drawing. Um, and by drawing I mean you drawing and me failing to make art repeatedly over and over again. Me failing
Yeah.
and fucking up. Like I couldn't even make a stamp well. Like when we had like the thing where we had to like carve out pieces of that like
I
plastic
do
whatever.
remember that.
I
There was
fucking
like a
sucked at that too.
Nyleon.
Like I remember when she did that, and I'm like, finally something I can do decently well at, and I fucked it up.
I did a really cool thing where I made. Were you there? I don't. Maybe you weren't there for that one because I think I did it twice in different years. But I made like a crow one, and it was really cool.
Mhm.
I think that year though I did it was like a rocket I had, like whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, I enjoyed that one, but
God, man.
I hated doing anything else basically in there, like whether it was painting or drawing. I like it was drawing a set piece,
Mhm.
you know, where like they set up the thing and then
Like,
you're
paint
drawing it. That was
this.
I hated that. I hated having to draw something that was just sitting there. It was just like I do not.
Yeah, you're
I
not
did
good
it
at
like
this.
I wasn't. It wasn't that I was bad. Like I was okay. It
Mhm.
was like it was decent, and
It was
it
just
was just
like
that I
boring.
didn't like it.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I had like I remember the pumpkin scene. That was like a
yeah,
table
it was
like
that
had
one.
a
That
bunch
was
of
the main
pumpkins
one.
on it that we had to draw, and I sucked hot garbage at it. I was horrible at drawing, and like I think I still passed the class with a B because like the teacher obviously looked and like, okay, this kid can't do art, but he's sitting here and he's still doing it. It's
He's
not like I'm sitting
trying.
there and I'm like fucking like eating the pencils that she's giving me and I'm not writing anything down. Like I was doing
Yeah.
stuff. I was just extraordinarily bad at it to an extent where like obviously the art that I make is going to be garbage. I remember at one point we had to do like draw a painting or whatever, like paint a painting,
Mm,
but like each section is like monochromatic or whatever, right? Remember that part?
yeah.
And I did R2D2. I don't know why I did R2D2. I just did. Because I remembered like thinking, I'm like, okay, what's something color wise that's really simple? R2D2 is like white and blue and like with black. Done. I'm in.
Why
Um
Criken's playing Dark Souls right now?
yeah, I think I got a notification on my phone about that too.
But
Um
okay.
but I remember like I told my mom about that because like throughout school, every time she'd like ask me how school went, I would just go fine because nothing eventful happened ever, you know. Like unless some dude got
Mhm.
fucking body slammed in the hallway, you know, like I had nothing to tell her, and she got very pissed about that. So like the one day that I did, she's like,
Yeah.
oh, my your little brother, he loves Star Wars. You should bring it home and show it to him." And like immediately, I said no, like no, mom, you don't want me to do that. And she's like, no, he really likes it. I'm like, Mom, no. It looks horrible. It looks really bad. And she's like, but, you
Oh,
know, and I'm like, no, Mom. Trust me when I say
let it go.
this sucks. It looks really bad. Do not, don't. And then she finally got it where I'm like basically like prying at her. I'm like, don't. This is garbage. It's not worth putting it up in his room or in this fucking house. Don't even bother.
Yeah.
I will go like print out a JPEG image of R2D2 for you that you could put on his wall. But don't like that thing is going in the garbage the second that like task is done. It's going in the trash. Um then we did clay stuff, I think. You were there for that, right?
I think so.
We had to
I
make like
think
a maraca out of like clay. Like a thing that had
think
like a jingle or whatever. And I made some like half decent shit then.
maybe because well, clay's fun. Like,
Yeah,
everyone
clay
likes
is
clay. If you don't like clay, then there's an issue. But
I feel like we
um,
did that in that art, and then I did it again in my 3D art class that you weren't there for.
yeah, because I didn't. Yeah, I didn't take 3D.
You
I
took
took. I
2D.
think I took 2D, and
Yeah.
then I was still with Katie.
hmm Yeah, you were
But
with her, and I was now on my own in a new world, in a new wasteland. And then after that year, I then went to the vocational school and I met new
see,
people, but we kept in
yeah,
contact.
see, it was so weird. Um, like like we knew each other
hmm
like freshman year really well, actually. Like
hmm
everything except games. Games is the only thing. Like that's what cemented the relationship basically.
Yeah.
was 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 the moment we exchanged gamer tags
hmm
and bonded Dead by Daylight. But It
Yes.
was we had two classes freshman, or no, one class. No, well, if you count study hall, two classes, and
Yeah.
so it
Study
was.
hall went well for us. I feel like we
Then we
definitely
got
bonded way
separated.
more in study hall than ever
Yeah,
before. That's when we
yeah,
did the Baton Death March, um,
yeah.
which
See,
was you had to walk like 11 miles in a week around the school, and me and you did that together, like for like I think like quite literally a solid week. Like every day in study hall, we'd walk around.
yeah. Until
Um,
I got to the thing, and then I was like, I'm done
that
with this.
that
Why
was
I didn't
quite
do
literally
this?
the only fucking ribbon that I got in ROTC that I fucking liked. Everything
Yep.
else I felt like was bullshit. Every rank I got was bullshit, which was only two.
For
Um, I
for
didn't
those that
try
don't know,
anyways.
ROTC is like a military thing where
Yeah,
we
we
kind
were
of
in JORTC. I mean
junior.
JROTC.
Yeah.
And
So
like
ours
it.
was like, and it wasn't like we were. It was an official class like that by people that were part of whatever branch of the Air Force
Mhm.
or military, and then so like ours was Air Force, and then so we kind of like facilitated like that environment in this class, and then we learned about aviation
Mhm.
since it was Air Force, and we had to wear uniforms on part of the week,
Yeah,
one
like
of the
one
days.
day a week we'd have to wear a uniform, and one day a week we'd have gym.
Yeah.
JRTC meant for Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps programs. Um,
Yes. Not every
so
school has this, but our school for some
our
reason was
schools
one
we
of
did,
the.
and we did it. I did it because I didn't want to do gym.
I did it because I thought military was cool, and
And then
I still took gym. And I didn't think about it how you still had to change clothes on gym during that day, but it just took longer to change in and out
yeah,
of clothes.
yeah, I really disliked the uniform. I thought it was annoying. I never did exceptionally well. Like they never looked at me and like, "Wow, your uniform's amazing. I'm gonna fucking give you a back rub." You know, there's a knot here. You know, like they never did that. But all I remember was one day,
Yeah.
because remember there was that one kid that we had who was like had long hair and like never cut
Yep.
it
Yep.
and
I think his
was
name
like
was Trevor.
high all the time. Were you there when they said that his shoes looked like charcoal? Were you there for that?
I don't think so. I think I heard about it the next day or
Yeah.
whatever, but
They like looked at his shoes and I think like the sergeant looked at him and like you cleaned your shoes with charcoal. Cuz they were like your shoes are supposed to be shiny, right? And then like you can make them really
oh,
shiny and shit like that.
yeah, yeah. I think he
His
used the
like
thing that
were
makes it
matte
not
black.
shiny.
They were like
Yeah,
matte
yeah,
black.
yeah. He
They
made it
absorbed
not
all of the
shiny.
light. Like it was crazy how like dark and like matte black they were. It was ridiculous. Like it looked like a chalkboard. You know, there was no reflection going on there. And I think like I learned second year just like, yeah, spray some Windex on there and rub that in. And I'm like, okay, and I just did that every single like right before we had like I used to like quite literally get like a rag and like black whatever like that you were supposed to use on the shoes and rub it into
Yeah.
my shoe and like every single like day beforehand, and like they'd still get angry at me. And then I heard the Windex trick, and I'm like, fucking pog, I'm doing Windex like strat now. So I did that every day, like beforehand, and they never fucking even bothered. They never yelled at me again about shoes. The second I started putting Windex on there, they stopped caring.
I feel
Um,
like that's so fucking cheap though. You could honestly, you could like even put that in your fucking book bag and then
like literally like
spray that on your
2 minutes
shoes.
beforehand, just and like rub it in with like the toilet paper from the stall and
Yeah.
call it a day. And I would not doubt that like people did that. I would not doubt that like there's a
Yeah,
kid
I
in the
do not
bathroom
know
with his
if
shoes
it
grabbing
existed.
Windex, going to class, done. I would not doubt that at all. Um,
Hey Jordan, did you know there's a talk shows and podcast setting like category on Twitch? Oh,
shit. Is there really? Like
yeah, there
quite literally,
is.
there's not like a just chatting. There's a podcast. Fuck.
Yep.
All right, we'll do that. We'll
Yeah,
do that next stream. We'll do that
yeah,
next
we
week.
will.
Um,
But I noticed because Moist Critical, it says talk shows and podcasts, and I was like, wait a second.
God damn it! They got
Rip.
us. They got us. We shouldn't. Okay, you know what? Honestly, since he's doing that, now more people are going to be looking for it, and that's where we come in, Tyler. And then I'm gonna, everyone else that's doing a podcast talk show, I'm just gonna like fucking kill him. I'll just take him out of the race.
Okay. Okay.
But let's start wrapping this one up. Schools,
Um.
you know, may have not been real. Could have all been in our head. And,
Yep.
you know,
What I learned was that kids are mean.
kids are mean.
Common Core sucks.
Mm-hmm. Really
It's
bad
very
at teaching.
bland. Teaches kids things that are not important.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's required for a specific field.
Yeah.
Um, Teachers are underpaid.
Yeah. They
Uh,
frankly could care less about anything that goes on.
Schools don't like you,
Schools, they
and
aren't for you. All right? They're for the system.
which is very unfortunate because it's supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
for the children.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, thank you all for coming.
yeah. Wait, hold
If,
on.
yeah.
Our year ended drastically because our year in particular was affected to COVID.
Yes. Our
That
graduation was affected by COVID.
Yeah, and I feel bad
Which
for this
sucked.
year. This year is even worse
It's
because they
even
went
worse
through the
because it's
whole
all online. Yeah.
yeah.
Graduation with
But
COVID was so depressing to me. It wasn't this surreal moment sitting there in front of all of your
where
peers
everyone got emotional and
and
everything,
everyone's
it was just
crying. You're
like
like, yeah. You're looking at all your teachers you had fun with over the years, and like, wow, I'm gonna miss these guys to an extent until a year passes and I forget that they exist. Um, but now, wow, all of the emotions are hitting me. COVID fucking graduation, horrible. Went there, like, took a picture with the principal and left. That was it. I hated it.
yep.
I was so
Yeah.
sad. My parents were sad because they were like talking to me and it's like, how do you feel? And I'm like, fucking nothing. I feel nothing. Nothing happened. I went into a building, they took my picture, I wore this stupid gown, and I left. That's what happened. That was it.
Yep. And like the last day I saw my teachers, I didn't know it was gonna be my last day I
Exactly.
saw my teachers, and so there was no like goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Like,
just
I,
gone.
I had an extent, like, I had, because I was at the vocational school. I had a really cool science teacher, kind of. He was like a bit mean, but like a bit like he was mature. That like he was like on our level of humor to an extent. Um, and like literally, he just said like, yeah, this is a possibility. This is the last day that you guys are gonna see me. I would not doubt it. And then boom, it happened. Speaking of that, before we go, yeah, I had that science teacher had us do projects and shit like that. And one of the last projects that he had us do was make a water clock, right? So basically, it was
Yeah.
a clock that had to use water, like from a thing. Like it couldn't like, oh, I'm gonna fill up this fucking bucket and from the tap. Like it had to use no power at all. So like a sink doesn't like you can't use a sink, can't use a hose, can't just like fill up a thing. Like when it gets to this line, it's been 3 minutes. When it gets to this one, 5 minutes. So basically he's like, all right, you need to set up one for 1 minute, for 3 minutes, and for 5 minutes, right?
Okay.
I pushed this thing off until quite literally like 2 days before it was due. And at that point, I had to scramble to get it done. And what I got
Yeah.
done was quite literally, in my opinion, the best one out of everyone's. Basically what I did, I got a fucking like old chair and this big fucking plank that we had laying around.
Yeah.
And on one end, I put like this like piece of metal. I forgot what it was specifically. But I put a thing there, and on the other end, I put like a bottle of water that had holes in it. And as the thing drained, it got obviously lighter and shit. And then once it got lighter, it would just fall off. It would just fall and make a whole shit ton of noise because like I got like this giant 2x4 fucking hitting the ground now. So that's my alarm. And I would just have to go back and put a different bottle up there. And I'm like, okay, boom. And I let go 3 minutes of it draining, and then it drops. 5 minutes of it draining, and it drops. And it worked very well. It took me like 2 hours to do this, and part of the issue was I was working with water, and it was snowing outside. So it was freezing, and my hands are freezing, and I'm like going back inside, filling up a water bottle, going back outside, letting go, timing it, and then I'm like, okay, now we're good, and then I could film it. And he said to either film it and put it on YouTube or film it and like send it to him, and I just put it on YouTube under like a private thing that like only he can access, right? He said that mine was like very simple, and he loved that. He loved that it was so simple. Like he never seen anything as simple as mine, and he thought it was like a genius way of doing it. And I'm like, that's what I'm all about. I'm so damn smart that I make the dumbest thing to do. Like I do it in the most simplistic. Like any fucking dumb redneck could do what I just did. Put a fucking bottle of water on a plank and let it like spill out. Anyone could do that, but no one did. Because they think like, oh, I gotta make this weird Rube Goldberg contraption that like has marbles and shit to fucking set off an alarm. Nope, I had a chair and a fucking board. And it just like fucking fell over, and like quite literally like the entire structure would just fall apart. And like fucking shit would just fall all over the place and like make a shit ton of noise. And I'm like, boom, there's the fucking time clock.
What grade you got?
What's that?
Do you remember what grade you got?
I think I got an A on it. I think I quite literally got an A on it because like it was simple and like my times were good. Like he said, like, okay, for a minute you have like 3 seconds of like spare room. Like if the alarm goes off at like 1:03, like it's fine. And then for like 5 minutes, or like for 3 minutes you had 5 seconds, and for 5 minutes you had 10 seconds. And all of mine were in that time frame. So like I got no points taken off, and I did really well on it. And I'm like, yo, pog. And like I'm looking at other people's who made this fucking Rube Goldberg fucking marble dropping through the water type of deal, and they never got as good as me. They made this entire fucking like contraption and shit, and it was never as good as mine or as accurate as mine, because I basically took a fucking 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew and poked holes in it and put it on a plank, and then once it got like emptied or like to like almost empty, it would just like not be able to hold the plank down, and the plank would just fall over. So it took me forever because there was like so many factors in that was the issue. There was where I positioned the plank, where I positioned I remember what the metal was. It was quite really like a string of like jingle bells, because it was like Christmas time, I think. That were sitting on the end, but like at a point they didn't need to be there, because like I said, like this giant 2x4 is falling like from like a 4-foot drop, so that's pretty loud. I don't need the jingle, but it was there anyways. So there was like where I positioned that, and where I positioned the bottle, and how much water was in the bottle. So there was 4 factors. There could technically be a 5th factor, which is how God is feeling today, at that current time, how his mood is, like if he decides that he wants to be cool for a bit, then like that's another factor. So there was like 5 different factors, and that was the like thing that like he made so like such a big point when like talking about this, when like we were setting up. He's just like, make sure there's only like 1 factor that you need to change to make this happen. I had fucking like 4, so like it was a real big issue for me. And right before COVID hit, there was another project that he wanted us to do, which was a debate thing, right? Where you and a partner had to debate against 2 other people, either like the pros or the cons of this subject. I remember I had why fracking is good. So that was a very hard one, as I'm like researching to like figure out, why is fracking epic? Why do people want to frack someone?
Why do I want to ruin the environment?
Exactly. So I had to figure out like the pros of fracking. But thankfully COVID hit, because I don't think we were going to win that. My game plan was I was going to gather up all of the people that had to do like the pros side, and just get them all to vote for other pros, no matter what happened. And at that point, the most that could happen is a tie, because I think the winning side got more points in the end. So I was going to convince everyone on the pro side to be like, okay, vote for pros. All we need to do then is convince one of the cons to vote for us, and then we win that debate. That was my game plan going into it. I wasn't going to try too hard. That was my game plan, was to convince all of them to do that. But thankfully COVID hit, and I didn't have to do that project anymore. But Yeah. All right. Do you have anything you'd like to wrap this one up with?
Uh, believe so. Um, yeah, I mean that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
School be school,
School
whether
be
it
school,
existed
man.
or not.
School spelled with two L's, man. Crazy place.
Hmm.
If you're listening to this on Twitch and you're coming back for the VOD and you couldn't make the actual stream, follow. It's free. You can unfollow at any
It is
time.
free.
If you're
Yeah.
listening to it on YouTube, because we'll be uploading it there shortly, subscribe. Also free. Like it, comment it, tell us we're
Also,
doofuses.
you could
Um,
also even possibly open another tab by pressing a link, and then come over and follow the Twitch too, and then
yeah,
you can
follow the
watch us
Twitch while
live.
you're at it, and if you're on Twitch, go follow the YouTube while you're at it. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
make multiple fake accounts and have them all like follow and subscribe to this channel
Mhm.
repeatedly. To
Yes,
an extent that you're all just like one big amalgamation of bots. Um, that would be cool.
sort of.
I would
I
like
mean,
that. But
that'd be
thank
nice.
you all for coming, and I
Next
appreciate.
time we'll be under the talk show and podcast
Yeah,
category.
we'll
Be making a
actually
big
do it
move.
in
Big
that
move.
category, and it will probably be a bit better. But yeah, thank you all for coming.